Hi, welcome to Unspoken History. My name is Keisha. Thank you for joining me today. Today I want to talk about the 40 acres and the mule. When I was growing up, that was a joke. What you gonna do with a mule, 40 acres and a mule? Well, nobody really got the 40 acres and the mule, and those that did, it was taken back from them. So after, during and after the Civil War, when they were supposed to be emancipating the Negro Americans that had just endured lifetime slavery, they were trying to reinsert them into American society by giving them something that they could start their life with. But you know, that never happened. So how did these people even survive the treachery that went on in America? I have no idea. Only by the grace of God. Only by the grace of God. I want to read something in Deuteronomy 28. And I know people used to read this all the time. They would read it all the time. And people would say, that's not talking about you guys. Well, point to me another group of people in the world that this describes. I searched because I didn't believe that I was an Israelite. I didn't believe that I was an Aboriginal American. I believed what they taught me. They brought us over here from Africa, and that's it. And then civil rights. Slavery and civil rights, that's our history, that's it. So I believed that for a while until I started reading the Bible, until I, started following the Lord diligently and searching. He took me on a trip around the world, brought me back from the Bible back to it. So I want to read Deuteronomy 28 because it totally describes the Negroes in America. It describes what they went through. So while we were going through whatever it was that we were going through in America, we were basically living out the scripture. Deuteronomy 28 says, and it shall come to pass, if thou hearken diligently to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Now, which one of my videos was it? Where I was talking about sun worship. I think it's the one about Nimrod and sun worship. Because this is what, in the Queen of Heaven, yes. So, because this is what Israel was doing. Deuteronomy is right after they came out of Egypt. And then, I want to say, it was several hundred. It might not even been that long. It was a couple hundred years after Egypt. They were steep in sun worship and worshiping the Queen of Heaven. So, I mean, when times are good and everything is great and the Lord is blessing you and giving you everything you want, we get to the point where we get haughty. And they started saying, God ain't going to do nothing. America saying the same thing. Basically, how she's saying it without saying it is in her actions. So how Israel was saying it without saying it was through their actions, because they would not stop worshiping these things. They would not stop making images to them. They would not stop bowing down to them, serving them, sacrificing to them. And they knew this. No, maybe. So if you go 100 years worshiping the sun, who's going to know that there was another God prior to that one? Just saying. The Lord has to preserve himself among his people because he will be erased. Verse 3. Blessed thou shalt be in the city, and blessed thou shalt be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, and the fruit of the ground, and the fruit of the cattle, and the increase of kine, that's a different type of cattle, and the flocks of the sheep. Okay, so those are all the blessings. We know about Israel's blessings, right? So the current people that went through the Holocaust, the people that went through the Holocaust called the Jews today, they didn't have no hundreds of years of slavery. They weren't in Egypt. They didn't come out of Egypt and then inhabit the lands of Israel and Judah and then go back into another slavery. That happened to a whole different group of people. Just saying. So then when we get to the curses, it's at verse 15. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Okay, so curse you shall be in the city, curse you shall be in the field, curse shall be thy basket and thy store, curse shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land, and the increase of any kind, and the flocks of thy sheep. Cursed thou shalt be when thou comest in, and cursed thou shalt be when thou goest out. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexing, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord is talking. So if you think about like all of the stuff that was going on in America before colonization, they weren't serving the Most High. And there weren't many nations over here. It wasn't just Egypt and Israel. There were Babylonians here. There were, I think Moses' relatives were down in Mexico. And the Midianites, Jethro and whatnot. Or Moses' wife's relatives. So there were many civilizations in America. All of the biblical civilizations or the Bible stories happen over here. But that's another story for another day. Okay, so verse 15 is where they start talking about the curses. I am over here at around 20. Let's see where I want to go, because it specifically talks about what happened here. To be smitten. Okay, so the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and thou shalt be removed into all kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto the fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. Okay, let's move. This is a lot, so I just want to read certain ones. Verse 29 of chapter 28, and thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in dark, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. So one of the things I talk about in the videos is how everybody's out here, fighting for their rights and wanting us, to march with them, because whenever we get out in the streets and march in mass numbers, somebody else gets something. Just saying. So it says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lay with her. Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and thou shalt not gather the grapes therein. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eyes, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thine face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. Who'd that happen to? Whose children were taken away and given to other people to do whatever they wanted with? Negroes in America. So, when the Bible says that they're going to come to your land and take you out of your land and scatter you to the 4 corners of the earth, and so then our mind goes to North Africa, which is what's called the Middle East right now. So our mind goes there, and we start thinking that people were taken from there and spread. So it says that, so what happened here to the people that were enslaved is that their wives and children would be sold. Their husband and children would be sold. Okay? And that happened for hundreds of years here. Separating families, selling off their children. Well, the Bible said that would happen to his people. The sons and daughters sold to another people, and you will have no might in your hand to stop it. The fruit of the land and all thy labor shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. And thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. So who did that happen to? Because we've been talking about I'm not going to even mention these people. But anyway, who did that happen to? It happened to the Negroes in America. And wherever they were sent. So if they were sent to Europe, it happened to them there. If they were sent to Africa, it happened to them there. If they were sent to Asia, which is Europe, anywhere they were sent on this continent, or sorry, not on this continent, on this planet, they were mistreated. They were enslaved. They were put on plantations. Their children were sold. Their wives were taken and raped. Okay, that's what the Bible said would happen. It's horrible, but still, it's what the Bible said would happen, and it did happen. It says, thou shalt begat sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Now, everybody that has come to America, every immigrant, everybody that has come to America has been able to benefit off of the heritage that should have been given to the American Negroes. So after the Civil War, when emancipation happened, and then they were supposed to be given land, they were supposed to be given something, reconstruction, that means reconstruct everything, redistribute, so that these people can start their life. But instead, something happened, and it was not given to them. Actually, what was given to them was taken away, and anything that they established for themselves after the Civil War up into, okay, so they were really prosperous from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, right? On their own, because they weren't given anything. They did this on their own. And then the jealousy started. They have houses, they have businesses. Now white people want that too. Now, this is after slavery is over, after they're free, and this was allowed. So the 40 acres and the mule was always a joke growing up. Like, 40 acres and a mule. What was the mule for? It was always the joke. The joke was always the mule. But I believe the mule is the Constitution. That's what I believe. I don't think they had millions of mules sitting around, even army mules, just waiting to give everybody one. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong. So I want to read this. It's called the Confiscation Act of 1861. The Confiscation Act of 1861 was an act of Congress during the early months of the American Civil War, permitting military confiscation and subsequent court proceedings for any property being used to support the Confederate independent effort, including slaves. The bill passed the House of Representatives 60-48 and in the Senate 24-11. Abraham Lincoln was reluctant. I don't want to read that part. He was reluctant to sign the order. Abraham Lincoln was reluctant to do everything, let other people tell it. Okay, he didn't want to get rid of slavery. No, because he didn't want a war. He didn't want to try to keep slavery. No, because he didn't want a war, right? He was trying to prevent war. If keeping slavery would have prevented war, he would have kept it. Getting rid of slavery would get rid of a war, he'd get rid of it. Whatever would unite America. Okay, so they were supposed to confiscate the land from Confederates that were in rebellion against the United States. It was called Field Order. Now, the 40 acres and the mule was written off of a Field Order number 15 that was written during military time, right? During the time when they were confiscating the land and fighting and whatnot. So they started redistributing this land to free Negroes. And so I believe personally that because of what is said in the scripture, when the Lord says it's time, right? Because according to this, they're not going to return what they stole, right? Egypt wouldn't do what God asked either until they were destroyed. And America's going to do the same thing. I believe that's because America is often described as Egypt, right? As a land of bondage. And so when Pharaoh was asked to let my people go, he said, I'm God. Who do you think you are? Don't tell me what to do. When Israel was told to quit worshiping the Queen of Heaven, they said, We will not. I mean, it's just many times where people will just say flat out to the Most High, not to his face because they've never seen it, but basically to his prophets or his messengers or whatever, we're not going to do it. And America's not going to, it's been 160 years. 160 years. I mean, do you think they're going to now say, oh, we're going to give these people reparations? No, it's been a fight and an argument for decades. And, yeah. So, let me read some more of this. This field order, number 15, issued by General William T. Sherman on January 16, 1865, during the American Civil War, aimed to allocate land to formerly enslaved families. The order confiscated a strip of coastal land from Charleston, South Carolina, to Jacksonville, Florida, reserving approximately 400,000 acres for this purpose, which became popularly known as the Promise of 40 Acres and a Mule. This order was significant as it represented an early attempt to provide land and resources to freed African Americans. Freed African Americans after the war. Okay, so let me read this here. No. I'm going here first. So this is the African American Registry. And it says, on this day in 1865, white American General William T. Sherman issued a special field order that would provide each black family in America with 40 acres of land and an army mule to work the land. Amid his march to the sea during the American Civil War, General Sherman and Secretary of War Edwin Stanton met with 20 black community leaders in Savannah, Georgia. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. This was 1865. Where did he find 20 black community leaders already in 1865? They just got out of slavery. And I think another article says some of them were church pastors and whatnot. So, I have a video that talk about churches being developed in the United States prior to 1865 that were black churches, especially the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and then some other churches too. So, we have black organizations, black churches, and whatnot before the emancipation of the Negro slaves. And these same people are coming together because every time, we have us fighting, but then somehow we don't get the benefit from our fight. So you have these 20 people down here wanting to get land for free Negroes. But these were these other black, I'm just saying, they were these other black people. And if it's the first time you see my video, I talk about there were two different kinds of black people in America. There were the Negro slaves that had endured lifetime slavery, like the scripture, like Deuteronomy 28 described. And then there was those other black people. Some of them never endured slavery at all, and some of them were indentured servants. So I often wonder if these people were trying to represent these other blacks and get land for these other blacks, right? Because they came over as colonizers. And one of the issues with the black colonizers that came over with the white colonizers is that they wanted their own land. They wanted to remove Indians so they can get their own land. So I often wonder, and I'm now wondering, if that's who these people represented, if they did not necessarily represent us, the Negro Americans, but they represented these other black people. It says that the Union Army had confiscated this land. Each family would receive 40 acres of land and an army mule to work the land. This was a rent-to-own proposition. Each family had 3 years to purchase the property. Now, if this was a rent-to-own proposition, this should not have been offered to the Negro slaves. They should have been given the land. Why did they get it for 3 years? And if you don't develop it and start paying taxes, then we're going to take it back. They didn't have anything to begin with. How are they going to then start paying you for the land in 3 years? Thus, 40 acres and a mule, a phrase incorporated into the English language for compensation that was to be awarded to freed black slaves after the Civil War, but was returned instead to former slave owners. I keep looking up at that light instead of at my camera. to former slave holders. Hold on, let me see where I'm at. The order applied to black families living near South Carolina, Georgia, and the Florida coast. On a national level, this and other lands confiscated and abandoned became the jurisdiction of the Freedmen's Bureau, headed by General Oliver Howard. Now, why was the Freedmen's Bureau not headed by a Negro? Right now, I heard that the reparations, national reparations for African Americans, is ran by a woman from Nigeria. She's here in America. She is in charge of what reparations is for whatever. And she's from Nigeria. How come she's not a Negro? The games that are played with brown folk is a big game. And brown folks are participating. So when I went to a gathering where they want to say all black people are, black is black. Well, I ain't black then. Okay, because black has never been black. It's never been all black people are the same. All black people are oppressed. All black people are under the same situation. It has never been that. And it is not that today. So anybody that is oppressed, of course, you want to help anybody that needs help. But no, we're being played. White ex-Confederates or the ex-Confederates, the former owners. During the summer and fall of 1865, President Johnson issued special pardons returning the property to ex-Confederates. Howard issued Circular 13, giving 40 acres as quickly as possible. Upon his knowledge, Johnson ordered Howard to issue Circular 15, returning the land to the ex-Confederates. Because of this, the phrase has come to represent the failure of Reconstruction and the general public to assist African Americans. And you still have people fighting, saying, no, they don't deserve anything. Well, I think that America's had her fun in the sun, in her shade, and beautiful sunshine with the shade over, just enjoying life, living the dream. No, Donald Trump's showing us that that's over. He's showing us that America's been crooked and twisted, and every president has done deplorable things. They're all from the same family, same bloodline. Okay, it says, in the field, Savannah, Georgia, January 6, 1865, Special Field Order Number 15. The islands from Charleston south and abandoned rice fields along the river for 30 miles back from the sea and the country bordering the St. Johns River. The St. Johns River, Florida, was reserved and set apart for the settlement of Negroes, now made free by the act of war and the proclamation of the President of the United States. So once that president is gone, forget what he did, we finna do something else. Forget what he did, we finna do something else. But none of them done anything for Negro Americans, not, especially not Barack Obama. So this last little article over here where this person said, I never heard of 40 acres and a mule. I've never heard of the Freedmen's Bureau. They didn't teach me that in school. It was the fall of 2021. This is from Global Investigative Journalism Network. In the fall of 2021, I had only recently heard the phrase 40 acres and a mule for the first time. I heard it in a song. Did I hear from Nas or Kanye? Honestly, I don't remember. But I do remember Googling the phrase immediately and was surprised to read about the government's broken promise to Black Americans. I was surprised because it seemed like a significant moment in history, but I don't remember learning about it in school. When reading Wilson's name on the computer screen, I didn't realize that right away that I had come across a batch of land titles issued to formerly enslaved men and women as part of the 40 acres and a mule, or that these historic documents were only recently digitized and made available online, so they weren't available to see. Now that everything's digitized, you can almost find anything. It's like all of the stuff that used to be conspiracy and not true, you can go find it if you want to know. I also found a log where Freedmen's Bureau agents recorded the names of hundreds of people in Georgia who received land titles, including Wilson. The images had been scanned from microfilm at the National Archives, where the Freedmen's Bureau records are stored. When I was doing my searching for my family's records, looking for relatives, I found, let's see, this is my she's my great-great-great-grandmother. She was born into slavery when she was a child. Actually, when she was born as a child, she was sold away from her mother as a slave as a child. Into, I think it was in Alabama, but then she was taken to Louisiana on a plantation. She has a land grant with her name on it. First, middle, last name, it's hers. Because when I was doing my genealogy, I was doing it at the library, and they have a free genealogy search kind of program in the basement. And it started, once I put my relative's name in, it started sending me information on that relative. And I checked that information out. It has her first name, her middle name, which I think was a nickname, and her last name, and her age, and where she was born, and her, you know. So it's her land grant. But do you think that I have the ability to go over there and say, this is my 157 acres from whoever is living on it right now, or business, or whatever? Absolutely not. We can't even go to the government. Like, you know, they say you can self-identify. No, you can't. I've been putting on there that I'm Aboriginal American for years, and nothing has happened, right? I'm still just a Black American, African American, Negro, whatever. So if you're not recognized by the government, which they're going to lie and deny you, they've been doing it for over 200 years, denying people interest into the tribe because they're Negroes. So that's backwards. We're living backwards. White people that came to colonize America are now the indigenous people. What? Okay. Just saying. She said, at the time I was looking for records that related to a different investigative project. April Simpson and Pratik Rebella and I were a part of a reporting team at the Center for Public Integrity that was researching gas pipelines in the Black neighborhoods. I had talked to Andrea Roberts, then an assistant professor of urban planning at Texas A&M University, for advice on how to identify historic Black settlements across the country, something she had done in Texas. Roberts suggested I look for land records in the Freedmen's Bureau collection. Now, this collection is a 1.8 million page document of stuff. How did it put it? It says, the officer put me in touch with the activist, Damani Davis, the agency's lead expert on the nearly 1.8 million records in the Freedmen's Bureau collection. Wow. Now, why is that not available to us? That's our relatives. Those are our ancestors. We might be able to find a family member or something. But it's something we have to pay to find, to be able to look at. But anyway, so what they did was went through the digital archives. They went through a lot of this 1.8 million documents and tried to find the descendants of the people that had gotten land, that had actually gotten land titles, and then went to try to find their descendants. But, I mean, then what? Because there are people living on these lands. There are corporations, businesses, or houses, developments on the lands that are ours. So I've seen people I've been watching this for a long time. I've seen people try to go and say, hey, this is my ancestors' land that your whatever is on, and end up in court and all that. Yeah, I'm gonna let the Lord take care of it, because that's the way it's gonna have to be. Because no one, I think I did say in a different video, I saw the 5 civilized tribes in Congress with one lady representing freedmen who wanted them to honor the treaties and let the freedmen into the tribes. Well, they want them to come in as if they were slaves. First of all, during slavery in America, I know I've heard people say, yeah, well, American Indians had slaves. The American Indians were being kicked off their land. They were fighting to keep their land. They were being stripped of everything and moved all around the country. They ain't had no slaves. Okay, that thing ended a long time ago, during the Trail of Tears, and they had a few slaves. Okay, their land was being taken. You think about it. Go through American history. Kansas-Nebraska Act, the Missouri Compromise, the this, the that. They were just taking land. So how you got some prosperous, what plantation did American Indians have that were being called American Indians? No, they were blacks and whites. And they didn't call themselves Indians on the plantations. No, they were colonizers. So this whole idea that we were slaves to the Indians, the white Indians, and that's how we got to be in the tribes. No. The Aboriginal people are the Negroes. Their tribes have been taken by other people from other nations. Their identity has been stolen by everyone. And we're just left with, yeah, we're Negroes from Negro slaves from Africa that we just came and got y'all from over there to make y'all better slaves over here. Anyway, so no, I personally know who I am, but I'm not asking them for anything. My God will take care of me. If he wants me to have it back, I'll have it back. If he don't, I don't care. Let them keep it. Let them keep doing what they want to with it. They don't have to answer to me. They got to answer to the Most High. So she found several people. She said the land titles and logs covered more than 26,000 acres on dozens of plantations that were seized by the Union Army from Confederate landowners. Those special field order number 15 covered parts of northeastern Florida. We didn't find any land titles issued there because it only lasted for, what, a year and a half? And then before you know it, they were taking everything back, running them off the land, okay? So anyway, the 40 acres in the mule didn't happen. Reconstruction didn't happen. Reparations are owed. How we paid everybody else reparations, but then just gonna look over the Negroes. Anyway, Japanese, the converso Jews, the, who else? I know it was the Japanese in America when they put them in camps or whatever during the war. So anyway, but for some reason we keep coming up with excuses. They don't deserve anything. They don't deserve anything. We didn't do anything to them. God told us to do that. Well, he told you to quit too, and you didn't. So now somebody owe, and somebody going to pay. The Most High's judgment is going to be brought upon them because that's just the way it works. Egypt said, no, I'm not letting these people go. They belong to me. I am God. And America's doing the same thing. I keep saying that because it's true. Because when I read in that Bible, America's just such a parallel to other nations that defy God after they were blessed. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And leave me a comment. Have a good day. Thank you.